like to call the meeting for the Hayden City Council to order. It is Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. It is 5:04 p.m. The reason we're starting 4 minutes late is we just finished a workshop with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office for Law Enforcement Services. Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
And Council President Satterfield is absent. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Abby Sanchez, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda? I do not know of any. Hearing none, we'll move forward with the consent calendar. 1A, approval of April 13th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. 1B, approval of Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board wastewater treatment plant facility upgrades payment request. C, approval of Grace Bible Church event permit application and loudspeaker request. 1D, approval of Hayden Inland Astros Park field use agreements and attachments. That was fun to read, by the way. 1E, acceptance of public infrastructure for Property Brothers subdivision. F, approval of 2021 Hayden Days entertainment agreement with David Reed. I am so grateful we've got Hayden Days coming. 1G, approval of 2021 Hayden Days entertainment agreement with Ruby Frog Entertainment for DJ services. H, approval of Embrace Realty Group movie night event permit application and loudspeaker request. I, approval of Welch Comer Engineering 4th and Honeysuckle Roundabout Design Services Contract Amendment number 2. J, approval of Welch Comer Engineering Services Agreement for on-call plan review. K, approval of Hayden Lake Marathon event permit application, support agreement, and loudspeaker request. L, approval of PZE-21-0031 Brown Zone Amendment written decision. M, approval of PZE-21-0022 Rock Hayden Square written decision. And approval of PZE-21-0022 Rock Hayden Square Master Development Agreement. O, approval of Hayden Canyon Storage Master Site Development Agreement. And P, approval of bills for payment. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar as read?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Roeder, Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
And Councilmember DeLange?
Yes.
Unfinished business, number 2A, action item PZE-21-0031 Brownstone Map Amendment Ordinance.
And Mayor,
Yes.
I apologize. That's a little out of order. Did you want to do?
Yes, I would love to. Because it's just an order. Yep. We're going to move 2 to 3 and 3 to 2. So visitor public comment. We have one individual, an individual that I've not met before, Mr. Ed DePriest. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And we're happy to have you here, and please move forward.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'd like to get to know you a little better sometime, maybe, you know. Real quick, do I need to state my name? Ed DePriest,
Yeah, oh, yes. for the
8116
record.
North Stonehaven Drive, Hayden. And before I get off into what I was kind of talking about, I saw Sheriff Norris here, and I kind of heard the tail end of the conversation. And when Hayden had the workshop a few weeks ago, they had Mr. Miles, I believe, and a gentleman about the aquifer, and a community development lady, I believe, talking about the effect as related to growth in those areas. But I did not hear anybody or see anybody from the Sheriff's Department, Northern Lakes Fire, and the like. I think it's very important that that information also comes into the pot, for lack of a better term. And I'd like to request that the city invite Sheriff Norris and Chief Riley to the town hall on June 10th and allow them to present to the people who may be in attendance their view of the situation as related to emergency services and the like. So I'd like to, I guess, ask for that invitation to be extended to those gentlemen if possible. What I did come here tonight to speak about is something that has become somewhat concerning to me on the communication. And I know you guys hear this all the time, and it gets old, but it's true. I'm a citizen, a resident, a voter of Hayden, and as such, I think clear communication, direct communication, and transparency is extremely important, and that if council members make statements and a resident requests clarification, that resident deserves clarification. I sent all of you an email the 12th and 13th of the month, had the picture of my boyhood home and talked about all the things we've been talking about. And I received a response from a particular council person, and it said, I'm not opposed to relooking at it, but I am opposed to one council member trying to turn this into a political thing. I responded to that council person, and I said, I can only assume that it's most likely this particular council person. And the response back from that council person who made the comment was, I did not say it was that person. So I responded back with, okay, I understand the old saying about assume, because I said I assume it was. And do I need to, you guys don't know what I'm talking about, assume? Yeah. And he said, I didn't say it was that person. So I went back and I said, well, I understand what assume means, but you mentioned a council member making this issue political. Can you clarify what you're saying to me? I didn't hear anything back. Didn't hear anything back. 5 days later, I sent this message, email. You had me thinking, and I'd really like to understand how and who, as you wrote, I'm opposed to one council member trying to turn this into a political thing. Can you please educate me as to what you meant? You made the comment, so I would appreciate if you could explain and clarify what you're talking about. And for an elected official to make that type of allegation, comment, whatever you want to call, about other members of the council, and then not clarify it, to me is kind of concerning. That individual's not here tonight, okay? But I would like it addressed, and I'd like to, one way or another, understand what was meant and why there was no, again, and I'm an old school guy, okay? You say something to me like that, you need to clarify it, not just turn around and not respond. So I would appreciate some a resolution of this to come down the road if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 3, unfinished business, action item PZE-21-0031 Brownstone Map Amendment Ordinance. Do we have a motion to read the ordinance by title only, to suspend the rule of reading in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading?
Yes. So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember DeLang?
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of Hayden, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, providing for change in zoning classification for the lands described in Section 1 of this ordinance from residential suburban to residential, providing for amendment of the official zoning map to reflect these changes, providing that all prior zones applicable to the lands described in Section 1 are hereby superseded, providing severability and providing an effective date. Do we have a motion that the ordinance be adopted and it's having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary, incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLang?
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker?
Yes.
Excellent. Number 4, action item, resolution of non-ownership.
I can come explain this. There's really not much explaining to do. I didn't know if you guys had any questions.
It was interesting as I read it. What's the resolution for non-ownership? I promise I don't know that.
Okay, so all this is there's an easement. I can bring up a map if it
You're
would
okay.
help. Do you want me
You're
to? Okay, so there's an easement on some property, in between 2 pieces of property. And it's really like a dispute between two property owners about this easement. And the easement talks about it being dedicated to the public, but that doesn't mean it's dedicated to the city. And Caitlin can go into it if you have any more questions, but it was never, for us to actually have it be a city easement, it would have need to have been accepted by us at some point in time. You know how we do that? A lot of times we, accept easements. We never did that. We couldn't find it in any records. Lakes Highway District, just in case it was like predated when it was in the city, they looked and they couldn't find anything either. So it's literally just an easement for access between two property owners. They're in some sort of court proceedings right now, and they needed the city to state that we have no ownership over this easement officially. I had already sent a letter to that effect that Caitlin reviewed, and it just wasn't quite official enough. They really wanted it to come from the city.
And Caitlin, why? Because it's like we're not going to stick forks in our eye. I promise that I don't own purple shoes.
Right.
I mean, are we down that road?
Well, and originally started this fall when the property benefited by the easement wanted the city to enforce his rights. The other property owner put a gate across it. And I think how it started was he emailed Melissa saying, I demand the city.
And we saw copies of.
Yeah, I put that kind of stuff in there.
On this easement. And so Melissa sent me the easement agreement. Or the easement language, excuse me, and it's a 1970s easement that just says granted to the public. Nothing else.
And we've never accepted it.
We've never accepted it, and I don't even know if describing it as an alley is an accurate description. It's just the back of somebody's property and the front of somebody else's. That's just in between the strip. So I don't even know if an alley. You can tell on the on Kootenai GIS that it's obviously been traversed multiple times, but it's not even a road. So we checked our records, and that doesn't make it, our right of way if we've never accepted it. People can grant us stuff, but
So my question then is, can we simply, I'm not going to vote on this, doesn't make sense to do a resolution. Can we simply state that we don't have ownership?
And we have.
We
They're in the
have.
middle of a court proceeding, and so they have requested, something more official from our records, and we don't have any.
Well, then can we officially say we really, 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 really don't own it?
I think that's what this document would do.
A resolution to say we don't own something, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. So
We don't, yeah, and so we've checked our records as far as when, what the acceptance could have been.
but what do they want?
They
Well,
want
one
us
of the
to
owner
have
wants-
this.
Yeah, wants the city to spend the funds to go out and prosecute this other individual to get a fence removed, and that's just a property owner problem.
We're not gonna
Doesn't
do
So
have-
can we simply acknowledge in this public meeting that we have never accepted that piece of property and we do not own it?
Yeah, the city could do that, and not wish to move forward with the resolution. It just doesn't help the
Unless
individual
council, does
who's
anybody want to go?
trying to.
Are we okay? Because that just, it was like.
I do
no.
want to say that this has created
Yes.
an enormous amount of staff time, so, and Abby knows as well, an enormous amount. So if you don't like have a real reason for not just executing this document, I mean, because I've already sent the letter.
So
We've
you want us
already.
to execute the resolution of non-ownership?
That would be my preference to kind of put this
Thank you
to
very
bed.
much for that. So how does that execution then look? Do we vote?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's a resolution.
Oh, yeah, it's just a
It's-
resolution.
okay,
Yeah, it's just a normal resolution.
Do we have a motion to resolute this non-ownership agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, bless you.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion?
Just one question. Is there a legal description for this easement? Has it been recorded?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it has.
recorded. I thought I put it in the
Okay.
It has.
packet.
I just
did.
want to make sure.
It's
and,
from the 80s.
Yeah, it seems like a civil issue between
It is.
two parties, and
It-
we shouldn't be in the middle of it, so.
And
I
we've
support
said
this
that 100
100%.
times. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I want, okay, for that discussion, go ahead.
And the city can't do an easement by prescription or anything else, and because it's been used, it belongs to the original parcel of property, right?
Right, and that's what we say in there. We've never maintained it, we've never accepted it, there's no prescriptive rights that the city would have to it, nothing.
I mean, had the city, long ago taken it over and, paved this area and maintained it, yeah, but we never have heard of this.
Before we vote, this was then, is there any legal exposure for the city by not owning it? And I asked that because if there was an assumption, Ed's word with assume, we were writing it on the board, if there was an assumption that the city had it, could someone then come back to the city? This just terrifies me that this even goes in my mind.
No, and
To say that we didn't fulfill our responsibilities by accepting it.
No, the city has the ability whenever anybody wants to give us an easement to decide whether or not we want to accept it. Same as we do with our roads. People can build roads. It's our private road discussion we always have.
But did somebody assume that the city did accept it?
I don't know that. The city is not a
That's what-
signatory to it.
Okay, you're okay.
But there's
The
nothing
city's-
documented.
No.
There's nothing,
No, it's
yeah.
not in the city's records. The city isn't, the grantee on it, and,
Because this really sounds like a great thing to do. Okay, we have had a motion and a second and discussion. Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Panabaker.
Yes.
Councilmember DeLange.
Yes.
And Councilmember Roder.
Yes.
Melissa, thank you. How in heaven's name, we have a lot to do.
I know. I know,
And this one was,
yeah.
so are we going to next week have a resolution that no one owns purple socks?
I know.
I mean, that's,
Believe me, we've
Okay.
said a lot of times that this is not a city issue.
yeah, we have.
Hopefully this will put it to bed.
We were pretty clear from the get-go that you obviously, doesn't preclude their right to seek their own civil recourse, but it's not.
and that was my,
Yep.
you say it legally, thank you. 4B, action item, Hayden Urban Renewal Agency request to increase the number of board members. Does anyone want to tackle that one?
Rob is here, he's representing Harbs, and then Caitlin also put together a memo. in the
I'd like, before we move forward, I'd like Councilmember Roder's thoughts that he might have in this too.
Sure.
Please.
You bet.
Before, okay, go ahead.
So, Rob Wright, Hayden Urban Renewal Agency Executive Director. So the board has been talking about this for probably over a year, and I think we may have mentioned it in a joint workshop at some point in time. But the board is they're looking to add 2 more members for added experience and added perspectives. And in a nutshell, that's the reason for the request.
Thank you. Are there 2 members identified?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Caitlin?
Yes, sir. I checked with Rob and Pete Bredesen, her as attorney, for her as bylaws, just to see if they had anything when it was originally formed regarding the limits on commissioners. They did not. It just mirrors the urban renewal statute in Title 50, Chapter 20, which allows for 3 to 9. That's the range you can have. And so I have a memo for you in the packet, just a really short one on what the process is for that. And it's the appointment by the mayor and consent of the number of commissioners approved by council is how you would make that jump from the 5 to the 7. So the mayor would, whether or
So
not put forward
my
that you're
question
approving.
was, why does this, I really, and I want to give Matt his time because I need to understand, why can't we just arbitrarily do that? If in fact it was approved from the number 5 to 9, why can't we just simply?
Yeah, you could increase from 5 to 7. It's just how a commissioner gets appointed is through you and confirmed by council.
So does this really need to go to council? I'm glad it is. I'm just asking the question,
Yeah.
did this need to go to
Yeah, it does.
council?
Yes,
Thank you.
it does.
Councilmember Roder, you're a member of HURA.
Yeah, I have been for a few years. It's a really interesting to be on that board. I can say the years that I've been on it, we've never not had a quorum. So I know that it's not an issue of not having enough people participate, although we've been pretty close. My one thought I have, and I don't know how this integrates into the discussion and application of it, but we have a developer on the board, we have a contractor on the board, we have an engineer on the board, we have a banker on the board, and then me. And I guess what I would like to see, if there's possible, if we're going to increase this, is we need more citizen, just regular citizen folks. And I know they want expertise on that board because of what they do, but I think a perspective from the citizens on how HERA spends its money and where it goes, I think is important. So that's my only 2 cents, is that I would like to see a mom, if possible, or a grandma, or somebody that kind of just is representing the people. Just, that's the only interest they have, is to represent the people.
We can do that by, Brett, if any member then, if this does get approved, has any recommendations of individuals that would like to serve, we look forward to that opportunity. So do we have a motion to approve the Hayden Urban Renewal Agency request to increase the number of board members from 5 to 7?
Yes.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Delang.
Yes.
Councilmember Roeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Panabaker.
Yes.
Thank you. So Brett, in your case, or Caitlin, or however way, Rob, thank you. Just let us know. I really appreciated Councilmember Roeder's thoughts with respect to just diversification. Okay. 4C, action item, mixed use potential zone text amendment discussion.
Yeah, so this is me, and I can bring stuff up if we need to, but I thought it would just be a really brief discussion to just kind of see where we're at. We had the workshop a couple weeks ago now, where we brought in like some experts to talk about the different items, and then it was with planning and zoning as well. And we talked through the comp plan and the future land use map, and I came out of that feeling like we were pretty reaffirmed on our comp plan, but I wanted to, I guess, make sure that we were okay. There was a little more discussion on the mixed use zone, which is that zone that is a combination of commercial and multifamily kind of throughout the zone, not on each piece of property, but kind of this combination of uses. So I was talking to one of the planners in Post Falls and kind of talking through some of the concerns that I've heard from some council members. And they have a lower density, I think theirs starts at like 18. And then if they add a certain number of amenities to the multifamily development, they can bump up to like 23 or so. So I thought, well, I wonder if that would help council get a little bit more comfortable with this zone. I mean, I still don't think we're going to just, see a ton of it, but I guess we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. So is that, this isn't a proposal for a zone text amendment tonight. If that's the direction you'd like me to take, I could go through those motions, do more research, figure out if that's something we want to do, workshop with planning and zoning. You know how the zone text amendments go to planning and zoning first and then come here. Is that something that you would like me to go spend time on? We workshopped these codes that we currently have 9 times. So I'm not saying that in a bad way or anything. I'm willing to do whatever makes you most comfortable. We did workshop it a lot to get to the point we're at now, but I don't want to constantly have the feeling that we're not comfortable with it, right? So if there's more work that we need to do, I will go do that. Is there any
Maybe I can help you, because it was a meeting. The genesis of this was with Melissa. It's really important to put our arms around where we are, where we want to be.
Yeah.
What are the variances? And in my mind, our comp plan with the new I'll say the right word, future land use map instead of the zoning map.
Yep,
Thank
yep.
you. Is that it was better in terms of identifying specifics, because right now, under our present zoning, I know that I moved from.
Okay, that's
going to
okay.
zoning,
I'll let you know.
is that there's too much ambiguity right now and too many opportunities for higher density growth than really what I think the meetings and the workshops have presented. So we've identified some specific land, and then Melissa brought up the point, because I said, does anybody do 20 ever? And she goes, no, with all the other things, 17's.
I mean, that's kind of the
number unless-
minimum. Yeah, I mean,
So I said,
just
why
like
not
we were
all
saying with everything else, like they have to meet all the other design standards. So it's not like every piece of property is going to afford itself to 20 units an acre just because that's the maximum. You have to be able to fit parking. You have all sorts of other criteria to make work on a piece of property. So it's not, I really don't even think it's to be assumed that every multifamily development is at 20. It is a good number. I've done a lot of talking to different communities that have successful multifamily, and what I mean by that is high quality. The types of developments that people choose to live in for a variety of reasons, whether it's their income or it could just be a desire. I mean, I know I lived in an apartment at some point in my life, and I'm sure the majority of people have, because you're in different phases of life, and we can't have Hayden fit only one phase of somebody's life. So not every apartment building is whatever Sheriff Norris called it in the workshop, felony alley or whatever. I mean, that's just not reasonable. I know people that live in apartments. There's all different reasons for living in apartments. So we're kind of focusing on how do we in Hayden create that high quality multifamily product. And that's what we're going for.
And the one, Melissa, but to walk through, the only one that we've seen in the last 5 years is right behind Capone's. Is that
Right,
correct?
right.
So in 5 years.
Well, Carrington Apartments are out off Hayden.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
they're under construction right now too. And it's right around 20, so's Chad's by
With all the other
Capone. So,
things, I
mean,
guess, it's not that we're
Right
going to put
around.
20 on 20 acres and have 400 units with all the other things. And that's the part that
Right.
everything else has to be in line, and they have to be able to meet certain infrastructure parameters, or
Right.
they're not going to be approved anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
that's the thing, and I was explaining this to somebody else, that I don't want anyone to get the sense that staff just lets developers do whatever they want. I mean, that's absolutely not true. I mean, I've got Rob, the city engineer here. We look at sewer generation, traffic generation, how are they getting in and off their site? What are the impact? We look at everything, and we always have comments. And then there are oftentimes that someone will come and say, hey, I'm looking at buying this piece of property. Would you let me change the zone and do multifamily? And there are a lot of times when I'm like, not a chance, that you're afforded a process. You could come in and request that of planning and zoning and council, but I'm telling you that doesn't fit. So we have these conversations all the time. I can't think of a single development where they get to do exactly what they want to do the whole process through. So I just didn't know if there was a way to get council just a little bit more comfortable with this zone.
Meaning if we move it to, because this is the real question mark with everything else going on.
Right,
This
I
is-
think everything else
This has
seems
been the
pretty.
flashpoint.
Right.
So if 17's the right number, does that help, or is it, there's
Well,
still
I
going to
don't
be
know.
so
Let's not
many other
settle on a
things.
number
That's
today,
no,
because I might
fair.
have to go do more research, but I was thinking, I really don't think that we'll get the high quality developments if our base is lower than 17. So if we have a base of somewhere around there, and then with certain amenities or something, you could increase that a bit, if that would make people more comfortable.
Thank you. Any
I'm
comments?
willing to kind of go off and try to do whatever, but
Well,
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
go ahead. You guys have gone through
So many in her.
workshops and
Right.
planning and spent a lot of money to do this over a period of a couple of years or even
Right.
more to
Right.
do this. And nothing is, I mean, this is brand new.
we haven't used it at
No,
all yet.
so-
Right.
And my feeling would be, why don't we just approve it the way it is? And then down the road, if that problem should raise its head, it's not a big deal to address it at that point. You know, let's
Right.
get this show on the road. You guys have invested a lot of time and money and stuff. Let's not muddy the water. Let's get it done the way it is. And if down the road, a couple of years, you run into a situation, then you handle it.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it.
Right. I think, when we talk to a lot of developers, and a lot of this stuff is just early on, or they might not even pull the trigger on it, right? But the people that are looking at developing in Hayden are looking at that higher quality product. I mean, they're looking at, okay, what did you guys put in the code? Oh, good, that type of thing, because that's what they want. That's what fits Hayden. And you're totally right. If we start to get what we're not liking, we can change the code and put those, parameters in there.
Which we can do now anyway. I mean, so,
I think we're going to get it anyway,
That's-
but if it makes people more, I just don't want to, have this sense that you're not comfortable with the code.
and I think this was the big, and I had that same concerns. Jerry, please.
Although I know that you and staff worked very hard on this, you were very thorough, you had lots of open houses, workshops, there were a lot of people that commented. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm hearing from, about as many people against it that, about the same number of people that were open to it, at the open houses and the workshops. So I'm not comfortable with it. I think that 20 dwelling units is too much. I'd like to see a lesser number, and I'd like to have this, reopened. And you've done a great job so far, but I think that this is just too much for our future. And I know that we can change it later, but I would be, I want to listen to the people that didn't have an opportunity to speak on this before for whatever reasons, and listen to them and make some changes to this so that more people are comfortable with it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Roeder?
I do understand the amount of time and money that went into a plan that goes out 20 years and has to be flexible because we can't predict everything that's going to happen in 20 years. I think that we're experiencing a very unusual situation where we had COVID, we had riots in the streets of major cities, we have mass exodus, California lost population, New York lost population, New Mexico lost a U.S. representative seat because people left. And what we're seeing is this great influx, of course, into our state. So this is a highly unusual situation, and I think we need to be looking at how are we going to deal with this highly unusual situation based on a comp plan that's going to take us into the future. What I heard today was that our sheriff is saying today he needs $1.8 million. And he also said that higher density means more crime, which means it's going to cost our citizens more money. I just want to make the statement that as I'm against high-density housing. We don't, as a city, do not have to go there. Post Falls, Rathdrum, Coeur d'Alene, if they want to produce high-density housing that's close enough that people can, our family can go there, we don't have to do it here. I don't want more crime. I don't want more density. So I'm very uncomfortable with
Okay.
this. And so I'm saying that we need to look at adjusting the comprehensive plan based on our circumstances, and that's my position.
So one of my planners upstairs, her daughter's 21 years old, recently engaged. She lives in Hayden in an apartment. So is your opinion that she's not welcome to live here?
I didn't say that.
Okay, so can you clarify? Because how would I'm just trying to clarify how I would adjust this code to make you a little more comfortable.
Well, she already lives here, so how can you say she's not welcome here?
Okay, what if okay, so somebody else that doesn't quite live here yet.
When I first moved to this area in 1977, I couldn't afford a house. We lived in Lake Villa Apartments in downtown Coeur d'Alene, and then we wanted to buy a house. We could not find one that we could afford as newlyweds in Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Hayden, or Rathdrum. We went to Spirit Lake. We were able to find a house that we could afford. $808.08 was my down payment for that house. And eventually, we moved to Hayden when we saved money. You know, if people have to move outside of right in this area, I did it, why can't they do it? Why do we have to spend all this money as a city to allow more growth? And I'm talking about tax increases. I don't want to spend more money. I don't want to pay more taxes so more people can move here. And so the problem is, again, the dilemma, the impact fees that we can collect, which are minuscule right now, and then I know I hear people say, well, if you put impact fees on, you're going to price people out of the market. People are priced out of the market now. When you look at the price of the houses, it's crazy.
Okay, so you know we're going through an impact fee study update right now to see if our fee is appropriate or not.
I understand that, but where do we, give me a number, what do you think that should be?
I have no idea at this point in time. I mean, the study is just in the beginning stages.
So, I mean, that's only our choice. We raise taxes to pay for all this growth, or we do impact fees. What do we do? And I can tell you, people don't want their taxes raised. You go there.
Okay, so I still don't really have any direction on what to do with this. So you're saying that people that either desire or need multifamily development no new people are welcome to live here? Should I just change the code that we have none?
I didn't say that.
I thought that's what you said. That's why I'm
high
clarifying.
density.
Okay, well, that would be multifamily development, and that's the code that I'm trying
To get our arms around.
my darndest to get my arms around.
Well, if I had my druthers, I know it's not going to happen. I'd like to have residential suburban. We can only allow 2 houses per acre.
That isn't, we're on mixed use, but I
I
understand.
know, I'm just saying.
So do you want mixed use at all?
I know that's.
I mean, that's the issue.
Well,
Jerry, you got it.
the question is, how much growth do you want in the city? That's the bottom line question. Where do you want to go? We're at a very critical point. Are we going to go high density and open up the door? Or are we going to say, whoa, no? Because you're going to pose that impact on taxes and on public safety, on streets, on the people that are here now. Do you think the people want to pay more taxes so more people can move here? Answer that question. I don't.
I don't.
But how do we collect an impact fee from somebody who doesn't come to Hayden? I'm trying to figure out how I collect that impact.
Well, that's where, but I mean, if we're focused, I'm sorry, Melissa, we're trying to have a conversation, so this is
No.
good. Meaning, let's say that impact fees quadruple.
Right.
Okay, that's because it could be to that level, but if there's no growth,
I didn't say
then there's,
no.
well, no, I'm just doing, because you're both, we're kind of playing table tennis here. If there's no growth, then there's no impact on impact fees.
I didn't say no growth.
Yeah, I
I
don't
said no
understand how
high
I'm-
density.
Okay,
There
so
can still be growth without high density. True?
So is your,
isn't the impact the same, though? I mean, if it's the same amount of people and it's the same amount of cars, I guess I'm not understanding how it's less impact. What am I missing, Mayor?
no, I think the density issue, if I listen, and Jerry, you had a question, you had a comment.
I was just going to say that in specific areas, there can still be some high density, but I mean, I'd like to see it like a lot lower, 12. And I'd need to look at some research on that.
There's a lot, and 12 doesn't, why, it would be almost, and this is okay, this is why we have discussions with real adults, then we eliminate mixed use in a lot of areas.
Right.
I mean,
It's
that's
not a
really
viable-
that's the option. And right now, they can do it in commercial, but if that's where council wants to go, to eliminate mixed use in a lot of areas, other than maybe identified specifically areas, then how do we zone those areas? And it's okay to have that discussion, but is that what we're recommending? I don't know, Councilmember Roeder, if you're saying no high density, less density, but higher density, is there a number, or would you rather simply have residential, single-family residential as part of that process? I mean, that's the question too.
Well, I'm thinking based on our current situation, we're the hottest market in the United States, no more high density, I'd say single-family homes.
Okay, so eliminate all mixed use. That's why it's good to have this discussion. So no high density, no duplexes, no, you want single family.
Yes.
Okay, that's on the record, that's what we need to go to look at. Jerry?
And I'll respectfully disagree with that. Yes, we can have residential homes, but I feel that there's, a need for some higher density duplexes, apartments. But again, they need to be a lot less density than what's being proposed now.
So Melissa, here's what you have. You have one council member that says we need to move forward with the plan that we've adapted. One that says mixed use only, you're okay with the others, but from a mixed use standpoint, you would like density to be reduced from 17 or 20 to whatever a number is. And I don't know that that'll work, and that's okay. Let's look at. And one that says that they don't want any higher density.
Well, other than if I may interject,
Please.
in R1, we can have, 4 or 5 houses per acre.
Right, but
I mean,
single family.
that would be the highest
Okay.
density that,
I think that at 4 is really the max in there.
It is anyway, but either one, it's a
Yeah, by the time
it's
you
single
drive the
family, not
roads
a
and-
dwelling unit. So that's how about that for a discussion? So next steps, and Roger was, okay. I don't want to speak for Roger within this, but he was okay with existing, okay? I mean, so in terms of, but can we look at the financials, Melissa, or help
Yeah.
to help Jerry and all of us see what the impact would be if there's a lot of multifamily going on very close to Hayden. I drive Prairie and turn left on Ramsey, and it's all there, and I see what's going on. I see what Sheriff Norris talked about behind Winco. We've all been there, I mean, but that's a different animal. That's higher density, but it's
Right.
subsidized. That's just not,
Right.
that's not market
It's
driven.
not really what we're doing.
That's not what we're doing. And so at some level, we'll be able to see how our decisions will be moving forward. This council at some point created, what do we call our zone? The downtown
Central Business
district?
District.
Central, say it again, please.
Central Business District.
Central Business District was adapted. And in 6 years, we had zero investment in downtown. Zero with a zero. So was that the right decision? I don't think so, but that's the decision. And so at some point, we'll see where these decisions will lead us in the future. I don't know, good and bad, but it's good to have this discussion. I'm grateful that Melissa wanted to, and I'm grateful for the honesty from the council members. because I think this is the one area where we have issues. And this is the one area where misinformation drives public perception. So we need to all be on the same page.
I have a question. I know Brett did too, but before I forget, because I'm getting a year older tomorrow, and that's a problem.
Happy birthday.
But anyway, my question is, if we did have just R1, which allows 4 houses per acre, up to, and we have residential suburban, which allows 2 houses per acre, can the city financially survive based on those 2 zonings?
Ask Dalton Gardens,
And Alan,
think-
does he have any number?
Talk about the
because
infrastructure.
that's Dalton Gardens. I mean, that's,
I think that you will find, in general, and I'm sure we can find studies that would, I'm sure there's plenty of studies out there will support this, that, for example, Dalton Gardens, one of the reasons that sewer has never been installed is because the cost of the infrastructure to put sewer in for 1 acre lots is absolutely astronomical, and it's not affordable for the general. I mean, even at the rate that the homes are in Dalton, it's probably not affordable. So when you start getting, it's kind of that deal. If you got 5 homes per mile of road, or you got 50 homes per mile of road, and those 50 homes are paying taxes, and I'm not saying they're paying high taxes or low taxes, they're just paying the average tax. Your base is greater for your maintenance and your upkeep when you've got that many homes per mile of road. If you got 5 homes per mile of road, each one of those homes is not going to support the cost of maintenance of that road. They just can't.
the denominator's the denominator.
It doesn't work. So, and it's the same with sewer, and it's the same with water, which we don't have water, and it's the same for stormwater, which we do kind of have. It's the same for sidewalk maintenance. It's the same for snow plowing. So if you limit yourself to super large, I mean, because I'm just going with scales, right, so that we can kind of have an understanding. If we go with this super large lot concept, it's very difficult to financially support it. If you go with the smaller, it's much easier. I think in today's market, in today's world, the Dalton Gardens of the world probably are not going to see themselves happening. I mean, I could only think of 2 places around here that are like that, and I've never seen it developed again. If it was a viable market, there's absolutely nothing stopping in our code today. I mean, absolutely nothing of a developer coming in and building 1 acre lots. They have every right in the world to do it all day long. I don't see it happening because I don't know that it's really a viable market.
But if we have R1, that allows 4 per acre, so is that economically viable for the city? I mean, isn't that about
Why don't we do a study? Because I think it's suicide.
Yeah, but Hayden Canyon, how many per acre is at Hayden Canyon? And there's like
2.5.
2.5 houses?
2.5 dwelling units per acre.
So I guess that works, doesn't it?
Well, that's what I mean. No, so Melissa, it would be
It's
good to get
clustered
that.
housing, though. I mean,
It's a mixture. Ron McIntyre many years ago.
housing types in there.
I think
Who's
that's
the
one of the
most-
reasons that Hayden Canyon has taken so long to find an investor
Is
to be
because
able
of
to do it, is
that.
because of the low density. I mean, it's, even today, they go, the penciling this out is so tight because,
Plus the infrastructure.
well, you always have to build the infrastructure to support it, right?
That's what I mean, for either 10 homes or 50 homes. Melissa,
So,
right now, on a percentage basis, how many, we have R1 and how much of our space? 80%? 82%?
I mean, not in our, 88%, I would say, of our residential
Yes.
zones. I had that slide in here.
So we're
last time
talking
we
about a
had-
very small percentage of space.
Bring up the future land use map,
That's what I was going to do.
Yeah,
I think that would be helpful.
Was it
That's
this
where I
one
was
that we
gonna go.
met?
It's just amazing to me. I mean, and everybody gets the opportunity to make a decision, but if we truly, as a council, think that a city's going to be viable with R1, it doesn't work. You need commercial. What did Ron McIntyre say many, many years ago? We need variety. We need mixed. We need to do it correctly. But
Well, we don't have
Right.
a mix, like for residential suburban, we hardly have any.
But that's why.
Our highest Our highest amount of anything is the residential, single-family. I mean, and we heard that from the citizens during the comp plan, that they still wanted the grand majority of housing to be residential, single-family. So it is. You know, mixed use is not multifamily on every piece of property. I mean, I can tell you that we've got other land use actions that are going to happen, you know, development that's going to happen in the mixed use zone that is not going to be multifamily.
A lot.
Right? A lot. I mean, I have very few that are coming in wanting to do the multifamily type development. And then, you know, a little bit of that mixed residential, that was that stepping stone that we talked about. People that are in an apartment, they want to get to the single family home someday. They need a stepping stone to get there. The other people that fit into mixed residential housing are the 75-year-old woman whose husband just passes away, and they live on a large lot in Hayden, but she can't keep that up on her own. She can't mow it. It's way too big. And so what if there was an opportunity to have a cottage home with just a small little yard for her dog, something she could totally keep up on her own? Well, we just don't have that opportunity in Hayden. So basically, we're saying that unless you fit the mold of who can, one, afford, and two, desire a larger lot on a larger single-family home lot, unless you fit that mold, you're not welcome to live here. And that, I guess, is where I start to get really uncomfortable with where the city would be going if that were to be true.
It would be good to get, and I'm sorry that there's more work, it would be good to get a financial analysis, somehow, to be able to identify the financial impact associated with limiting, and I think mixed use, I don't think mixed residential is an issue. Maybe it is, Councilmember Roeder. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, because that's not R1, but it is amazing to me. I would think it is suicidal for a city to move to simply R1 across the board from a financial standpoint, because there won't be enough people to be able to handle the services that are necessary, required down the road. But I do believe that a balance can be very effective financially, short-term, and down the road. So
I'd like to clarify, though, to make sure that my statement is clear. I have no problem with commercial, agricultural, or industrial. I'm purely talking about residential property, and I have a problem with high-density residential property, and I want to make that very specific.
So one quick question is, where the people that work in the jobs in the light industrial and commercial, do you think they should live in Hayden or not?
Well, there are apartments here, correct?
very few. I bet we don't have.
Not any vacancy.
No, my question is, are there apartments in Hayden?
It'd be nice to find out how many. We're arguing about things that are hilarious to me.
And
It would
there
be
are
interesting to see how many
apartments in
units.
Bastrop and Coeur
We don't
d'Alene.
have any, we have very few units in Hayden.
Right, so I mean, if they have to
Yeah.
go to Coeur d'Alene and travels 3 miles or 4 miles, is that a problem?
Go ahead.
I'll just comment, Councilmember Roeder brought up the fact that he couldn't move to Hayden right away. My husband and I were in the same boat. We were living in Kellogg, and we both had jobs over here in Kootenai County. And so we wanted to move to Hayden, and there were no places to rent. Very few places to rent. We ended up finding a rental unit in Coeur d'Alene, and we lived there for about 3.5 years before, we live in Woodland Meadows now. When they first started building that out, the homes were very, very expensive. Not that many people could afford them, but by the time they built out the whole area, they were building less expensive homes, and my husband and I were able to afford one. And so Hayden does need some rentals for people. We have very few, so there's a
We don't have
need
any
for
now.
it.
Yeah.
I don't think that
Yeah.
we could survive on just residential.
What time frame did you say that was, Jerry, that you were doing that?
1995.
Okay, so this, if you remember this graph that our SCJ consultants put together for us, shows Kootenai County cost of housing compared to median household income over time. So you can see how in the 95 timeframe, it was a struggle for you even then. And you look at these lines diverting from each other. The young people that are trying to get into housing today, astronomically different and harder to get into housing. So
Almost
it's not
I
the
mean-
same game at all. And I mean, that's interesting that you had a struggle even back then. Today, in your same exact financial situation, it would be even more challenging, like way more challenging. So,
Maybe we could look, I don't know how we could find the dial. I feel like a Federal Reserve, one of the 7 or 8 to figure out, okay, if we move this dial, what is the financial impact associated with it? And will there be investment? But
I'll have to
But we
talk
can try.
about that.
I do believe if we want to make taxes unbelievably high, then we should go single family. That will allow us the opportunity to either have no services, or at some point, when there's a crisis, we won't be able to simply move K1-ish in terms of gradual growth and development. We will either have no services, or we will have the highest tax rates around, or try to do what we're trying to do, partnering with the sheriff and other things. So this is a good discussion. I need to move it.
I want to comment on that, though, because you said we only have single-family residents only, and I'm not a proponent of that. I said I support industrial, commercial,
Residential, single family.
agricultural, and residential. It's not just one zoning that I support. I just don't support high-density residential.
Understand. That's okay. I don't think anybody.
Because you said we can't afford it. We can't, if we only went residential suburban, we'd either have to raise taxes or we couldn't afford it. Well,
Or residential. It's okay. I meant from a residential standpoint. I wasn't talking about commercial and industrial.
because
We can have that
you
discussion
combined
later.
all that, and
Well, it would still leave a denominator that would be interesting. We need to move forward. We need to go into executive session. So thank you, Melissa. I need a motion that we move to executive session per Idaho Code 74-2061C to acquire an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency. Do we have a motion?
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Panabaker.
Yes.
Councilmember Roder.
yes.
And Councilmember DeLange.
Yes.
It was good to get that discussion. We are now in executive session. Thank you all.